for the women.
Well, let me draw the parallel. Frances Peters, we saw how well she's done today. She used this opportunity to get back into the final. Her brother, her younger brother, James Peters, sailing with Ed Fitzgerald, is in a very similar position. Just missed out on getting into the final, but he has an opportunity to make amends, and if he could copy what his sister did, he'd be very happy.
We should mention who's got the best chance of making it into the final through this rapid charge round, and that is Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes, who are currently on 100 points roughly, ahead of James Peters and Ed Fitzgerald. They look like they will battle this out, but Alan Norregard also has an outside chance of still making the final through this round of 3 races as we anticipated. Might only be one if the race officers worried about the wind being too weak for the finals of the men.
Halfway up the Windward Beat, very short course, stadium course. Just looking out the window, who's got bow forward? I'm looking at the Spanish boat, bow forward. There's lots of Brit sail numbers in there.
That's the Telekia brothers, the Spanish. They look in a strong tactical position there. Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes, 2007 world champions, very much in the hunt. And as Marcus was just telling us, they're in pole position at the moment with these 3 races to go in the Petit final. So good positioning for the British, Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes in these early stages. And Alan Norregard and Anders Thompson also looking good.
So there's the tack at the top mark for the Telekia brothers as they tack. They're on the ley line. Round comes 77. That's Steve Morrison also on the ley line.
Looks like the Telekia brothers are going to be coming around the Windward mark in the lead. And a 2 or 3 boat length lead on Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes as they go around. Breeze looks good. I don't know if the breeze has picked up or if it's that there's more power generated by these bigger rigs, because the boys in the 49er, other than the girls FX, do use a taller mast and larger mainsail and larger sails all round. So maybe they're just generating more power in the same breeze that the girls had.
On the first downwind now, it's certainly the Spanish, the Telekia brothers in the lead. Stevie Morrison second. Morrison goes into this with a 10-point advantage over James Peters. I can hear whistles blowing on the water. Whether that was a penalty, we'll have to have a look. I'm not seeing any turns. On the water umpiring, which is important, so there's no off-the-water protests. It's all dealt with on the water. Procedure, you fly the flag. The umpires respond. If it's positive, they fly a red flag. If it's a protest dismissed, they will fly a green flag. We can see the umpire boat on the course behind the boats, but certainly streaming down towards the bottom mark, Andy.
Telekia brothers closing into the leeward gate, coming into the picture on the left side. There's the gate, there's the 2 gate marks. Boats are coming down.
There they go. Telekia brothers rounding the near side mark, coming towards the shore where typically we've seen slightly more breeze on the right-hand side. I think we're going to see most boats choose this mark when they get given the option to do so.
Nice pressure, by the way. We see the men's who are a little bit heavier and they're fully stretched down at the leeward gate. The breeze is still up. Nice shot here with the Telekia brothers going sailing towards that drone.
I don't think there's any more wind, is there? I just think it's the bigger rigs generating more power in this breeze.
You think they're so much bigger?
Well, maybe the breeze has picked up slightly.
I thought the breeze was going down, and I'm glad to see it hasn't. That's good news for our final to come.
So there go the Spanish. Quite a healthy lead. Just out of picture, you can see their jib on the left of picture, Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes. And I like this right-hand side. I think the front 2 boats are going to stretch away. I don't like the Danish positions at the top of picture on the left-hand side. They're going through some bad waves there for Alan Norregard and Anders Thompson. And the left always looks vulnerable to me.
Certainly, I'd agree with that. It looks vulnerable at the moment. Looking at the overall point situation, if Stevie Morrison can hold on to the second place. His main opposition, which is James Peters from GBR, and Alan Norregard, and David Evans, the other GBR 98, they're back in the field a bit. So this is actually playing out pretty nicely for Stevie Morrison in the first race.
Yeah, it is. They'll have been disappointed not to make it through at first opportunity and to have to do it through the repechage. But if they can maintain this kind of form, then they will get through quite nicely.
So we are there looking, we're up to the top mark for the second time. Round the top mark, down to the finish. This is real stadium racing. Short track, big reliance on good starts, good manoeuvres, good crew work. I think crew work is going to play a big part in the Petit final and the final of the men's 49er. Second round will be Steve Morrison, Ben Rhodes.
Looks a little bit soft for the Spanish with the blue Jenica in the middle of picture. But they're getting going now. They're building some speed. It's going to be hard for Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes to make any real attack on them down this run. But look at the gap back from Stevie Rhodes back to the next group of boats. Looks like it's going to be Alan Norregard and Anders Thompson in third place, but a long, long way back.
Certainly the leaders have stepped out. Coming into the top mark next, we have... who's in there next? It's a...
I think we saw an Australian boat.
Australian boat in there. Alan Norregard was in there third. And then there is...
Croatian boat.
Croatia, Kostov, and the Australians, Will Phillips, makes up the top five.
Not far to the finish now for the Telekias.
And good news for Stevie Morrison, as second place. That's what he wants. He's got a 13-point lead to Alan Norregard, who could overtake him in this Petit final. And James Peter and Ed Fitzgerald are having a terrible race, down in second last position at the moment, rounding just now. Interesting how this fleet has stretched out more than the women's fleet has.
Yes, I wonder why that would be.
I think the leading boats just get free, don't they? And these boats power up so much, so if you can get at optimum speed, you can extend on the group. We have a leader, and it is Teleshare first. Second over the line is Stevie Morrison. It's a good result, A, the second, but B, in terms of the accumulation of points. This extends them a little bit on James Peters, who's back in the pack a little.
So there were a couple of boats that started on port tack, but I don't think either of those boats were particularly profited from doing so. As I remember, Stevie Morrison was first boat into the left-hand side. So he made the left-hand side of the beat work early on in the first beat, but then moved to the right-hand side and pretty much booked the right-hand side of the beats for the remainder of the race.
It's Alan Norregard coming down over the line from Denmark.
That's in third place. And he is also third overall in this Petit final.
Looking at 98 coming down next, and that will be David Evans, GBR 98.
Not a great result for them, but not terrible. They're still very much in the hunt for a medal. They're only just outside the medals. And Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes have a little bit of a lead on the rest of the pack in the overall standings, but they're not comfortable yet. But behind them, it's extremely close on points.
I think the team there that really won't be that happy with their result are the second overall currently in the Petit final, and that's James Peters. He's back a bit, and that could be a little bit costly because it's all on between Stevie Morrison and James Peters for that position into the main draw, into the final. So that's a bit of a step out for Steve Morrison.
Yeah, it is. It is. Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes have been doing this for a long, long time. James Peters and Ed Fitzgerald, they've been in the 49er for probably 3 or 4 years now, but they're still very young, and they're still going through their university study, so it's all been exams for them lately. So for them to have got this far in the competition is already a good achievement for them. Of course, they'd love to make it through to the next phase, but considering that they're part-time sailors at the moment, this is still a good performance.
It is a good performance. Marcus, we'll just go over to you. Just give us a bit of an update after that first race.
Well, I can give you the overall standings. They're provisional, but it's Stevie Morrison in the lead with Ben Rhodes with 101 points. And in second place, we have James Peter and Ed Fitzgerald with 113 points. Alan Norregard and Anders Thompson also 114 points. And David Evans and Edward Powys. How do you pronounce that correctly, Andy?
I'm going to get it wrong too, but Ed Powys is...
Ed Powys. That makes sense. With 160 points. So 4 British boats, 1 Danish boat in the top 4. Croatians with 128 points, not a chance for winning this Petit final. So in the next 2 races, it will be between, and it does look like we're going to get 2 more races. It's between James Peters, Alan Norregard, and David Evans for second place, and very outside chance for Stevie Moore to catch up with Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes, but it's only 12 points. Still
6 places.
Can happen. Yeah, still a lot can happen.
But for Stevie Morrison, he can take it out in this next one. If he has a really strong result, depending what the other guys do in second and third and fourth, in fact. But it's up for grabs now for Morrison, isn't it?
Yep.
That would be disappointing for Alan Norregard and Anders Thompson in front of a home crowd. Alan, having won the bronze medal at the Olympics last year, he won that in a high-pressure situation, and in fact, he won the bronze on a day when Stevie Morrison would have hoped to have won that bronze medal. On that occasion, the Danish boat beat the British boat, so it would be Morrison's opportunity to go through to the finals, and it would be surprising to see Norregard not make it through to the finals, really, considering his strong pedigree.
Well, you never know. It doesn't always repeat like that. It's quite funny with Alan Norregard. He's known to be a party animal before the last day. You know, he likes to go out and really party the last night, and then he does really well. He did so at Palma, the World Cup, where he was out till I think 5 in the morning, and then the next day he gives his best performance. It seems to be his pattern, how he prepares. I don't know what he did last night.
Maybe he stayed at home.
Maybe, we'll see.
Well, that's pretty unconventional behaviour by
yes.
modern professional standards.
Maybe not for a Dane.
Maybe not for a Dane. It used to be standard operating procedure for British and Kiwis as well, but our people have calmed down a little bit in the last 10 years.
Well, I just
so maybe it's unprofessional to be professional.
That's the big question. Are we going to see a move back to alternative forms of relaxation?
That's right. We were talking about relaxation yesterday. Turn it on, turn it off. But anyway, look, I can hear the attention signal again out on the water, and that sounds like a warning signal. Certainly, they are rattling through the races here at the Petit final for the SAP 49er Europeans. And the winner of the Petit side of the draw will go through to the final. Stevie Morrison, Ben Rhodes right now are in the box seat. They'll be after another good solid performance in this one. They got second in the previous race. Andy, a top 3 performance could just about seal the deal for them.
Yeah, it looks that way. It looks that way, but we know how difficult it is to be consistent in these kind of races. And yeah, I don't think they can relax. They've still got to be sensible. You can't be too conservative either. You've got to get a decent start. But yeah, I'll be interested to see. We haven't seen the Port Tax start work for the 49ers in that last race, so it's a little bit different for the 49ers compared with the FX. I'm impressed to see how powered up they are in these.
It was noticeable. It was quite a different look, wasn't it, in terms of when you look at the comparison in this condition. What have we got? 5-6 knots. When we were watching the FX, they looked to be just wanting for power. These guys look like they are using all the power they need. There's quite a different dynamic. The physics look different, and the way the crews, the men, are using the power to get round the track. It seemed like off the line, find a lane. The speed differences, I don't know what the elapsed time was. Can you give us, here's one for you, Marcus, can you give us the elapsed time for that race versus the elapsed time for a FX race, because that will give us a speed difference between the FX and the 49er, and for me that is quite interesting.
Let me dig that out. Just give me a minute.
That's a bit of a curveball for you, sorry.
Wouldn't
you have the technology over there using
wouldn't take too long. I
the
just
analytics.
dig out the average speeds.
As
Got
we,
2 minutes
where
to
are we at
start.
out there, Andy? 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Race 2 about to come to us.
Still interested to see if anyone is going to go for the port tack start. And I see a British boat. It's always a British boat, isn't it? Out on the far side.
Probably the same coach, is it?
Could be. Here they are, 1 minute 30.
Already joining the lineup with 1:25 to go. Getting their position on the line. This is race 2 of the Petit final.
So the Telekias, who won the previous race quite nicely, they're lining up about third down from the committee boat. That's where they fancy.
Just to give you the data that you were looking for, looking at the SAP analytics, there is a substantial difference. The girls had an average speed of 6.5 knots roughly, where the boys were going above 8 knots. So surprising.
So that's the average speed round the entire track.
Yeah, and the wind has not increased nor decreased. It's pretty similar. Actually,
so that's an interesting stat, isn't it? Percentage-wise, that's a huge speed advantage in terms of the FX to the full-size 49er for men.
So one of the boats has done a 360 just to reposition at the far end of the line. And they're going to be spaced pretty evenly down this line as they line up for the start.
So who are we looking out for? We want to know where Stevie Morrison is starting, and he's in the middle of the line at the moment. He's doing another turn. It looks like he's going for that port tack option, for the port start option, and I know he loves that start. He once won a world championship with that tactic. He almost did it in every race. That was in Cascais.
In Portugal.
In Portugal, and that the right-hand side of the course proved to be better there all the time, and he took it better than anyone else.
3 of them doing it this time, so this is a bit more of an even balance at what you were talking about earlier, Marcus. But it looks like the Danish boat has come off worst out of doing this. They're very much in bad air. That's Alan Norregard, who's had to tack off early, couldn't quite make it all the way. Stevie Morrison coming out this side will be able to call for water to tack on the French boat, so the French boat tacks. There goes Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes. Stevie Morrison hooking himself up on the new trapeze and exactly where he wants to be.
Nice clean tack. He's probably done, well, 500,000 or 1 million of those.
He's been sailing the boat for probably 12 years now with the same crew, Ben Rhodes. They're childhood friends. They both come from Exmouth, grew up in Exmouth, and that's where they still live, which is quite unusual for our sailors. They're far down in the West Country, but they love it in that corner of the world where they grew up.
But it's interesting, you're not seeing the same dynamic with the 49ers. It's the group that actually punched hard to the left-hand side, and that's Evans, Peters, who's looking good up in that top corner. Evans is there as well. So
there's the Australian boat in foreground. Dave Evans, right of picture, looking very good at the moment. We've not had much to say about Dave Evans, but he has come 6th in the World Championship in the past, so he's a force to be reckoned with, and he's considered to be one of the top teams of the 2013 season. Interesting
difference in how the boys and the girls work the boat. There's more aggressive boat work on the boys, and I think the way for the girls to get better is to copy that. They have to work the boat as hard as the boys do, and whoever does that will stand out.
Telekia is looking good again. So the Spanish brothers who won the first race, if they can get round this ley line, get round the mark in one go, which it looks like they will, they'll be leading the race for the second time. Followed by Dave Evans and Ed Powis. Not seen so much of them so far, but this is a better race from them. But excellent racing by the Telekias.
Telekias first, Evans second. Then we have the Australians in third. That's Phillips.
Croatians and Italians following round.
Evans,
British boat.
Evans elected to do a jibe set.
Not a good race for Morrison and Rhodes. So Morrison and Rhodes leading the series overall to get this spot through into the finals, but they'll be needing to do better than this.
Well, you've got to say that the Portine start at Committee Boat End that time was not didn't work out for Stevie Morrison.
No.
And David Evans having a great race will close up the gap between Stevie Morrison and David Evans. David Evans is on 120 points and Stevie Morrison on 117. So it is getting closer, and it's opening the door on that last race and for that final last spot into the final.
Alan Norregard didn't get a great start on Port Tack. He probably got the worst of the 3 Port Tacker starters, and yet he's top of that bunch. If you remember, it was the French and also Morrison who also started on Port Tack. So the Danes who were forced to tack away earlier have actually managed to escape and got a decent first leg to lie in 5th overall, 5th in this race at the moment.
Already the leading boat round the bottom mark, Talashia Brothers ahead as the second boat comes in to the bottom mark. That'll be James Peters. And the mover there has been
Will Phillips.
Will Phillips has stepped up.
Everyone decides to go around that left-hand mark. It's a little bit favored.
There go the Spanish tacking, leading the second race. But even though they won the first race and they're leading this one, they don't even stand a mathematical chance of going through. Am I right in thinking that, Marcus?
Overall, they're 5th on 136 points, and with the third boat, Alan Norregard 124. It's not easy for them, but what a great race they are sailing.
So coming good, but maybe coming good a little bit too late in this SAP 49er European Championship. The Spanish have always been good at 49er sailing, haven't they?
Oh yeah.
We've had 2 different world champions from Spain, but
Yeah.
now with the retirement or the moving on of Iker Martinez into the one of the other Olympic classes, the NACRA 17, that leaves the way clear for a new Spanish team to take up the fight on behalf of Spain.
Yeah, but I'm sure they're going to pass on the tradition of being so successful in the 49er, and they've got a great head of the federation who coached Iker Martinez to his great successes. That is Alejandro Abascal, who won a gold medal in the Flying Dutchman in 77. Great sailor, and or was 76, sorry. And yeah, good tradition in Spain with the skiffs.
And they're really stretching away here.
They are making it look easy. The Talashia Brothers from Spain coming into the top mark. Now we are on the run to the finish. It looks like they're going to have their second win in the Petit final series. We can see one of the Brits coming in there, and
That's
that
David
must
Evans
be
and
David
Edward
Evans. So that's going to shoot him up the leaderboard. Reflecting back, we need to look back and see where Stevie Morrison will be. Third, around the top mark, Will Phillips.
So no position changes in the top 4 in this windward leg. But where's Stevie Morrison? Stevie Morrison currently down in it's second last place. No, he's ranked at 6th.
He's second or third last place because he goes round level with James Peters round the top mark.
And
well,
that would mean that he's currently still leading with 150 points and 120 for David Evans. But that's the interesting part here in this race. Where does Stevie Morrison finish?
Certainly closes it up, and the final race, it's going to come down to good start, first tack, first cross, same old stuff. But and it's really magnifying, isn't it, in the short stadium racing, that how important you're getting off the line. As we have our race winner, second race winner of the day goes to the Spanish, second Evans, third goes to Phillips. Kostov, Norregard make up the top 5.
So I think the Spanish must be starting really well, and they're choosing somewhere close to the committee boat end and just pushing their bow out early and making the best conventional start on starboard. There they are.
This will certainly rocket them up the leaderboard, but even if they win the last race, by my reckoning, it won't be enough to get the Spanish team into that main final. The game really is between that top little group of Steve Morrison, David Evans, Alan Norgard here from Denmark as the fleet go through.
There's the winner of the first two races of the Petit final. Can they make it a hat trick?
Well, in some ways, they're not going to be attacked, are they? Because I think the game will be played between Morrison, Evans and Norgard Peters to a lesser extent. So therefore, it's tailor-made if they get a good start. The Spanish team will probably be left to their own in terms of selection, course side, whereas I expect to see Morrison and Evans going quite close.
Here's the results. Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes in first place still with a 5-point lead going into the last race of the Petit finals. Or is it over? Did they call it off? Are they going in? It does look like it.
It looks like it.
It looks like the Petit final is over. Maybe we can get a heads up from the race officer.
The race committee. We might well have, by the look of that, our Petit final winner, I'm guessing, because we're saying this, we're assuming the Petit final is over. We're running out of time. Last race start for the finals of the SAP 49er Europeans is, what, 6 o'clock?
Please confirm the promoted boat as soon as possible.
Okay, that was just the principal race officer.
He was saying that a boat has been promoted, so no more races on this Petit final, and that can only be Stevie Morrison.
So you're happy to confirm that, I think, that the boat that will go through to the finals of the European Championship for 49er will be Stevie Morrison, GBR 77, and he takes that out. So really, the local hotshot and Alan Norgard, and what a record he's got. He's out of the game. We are just hearing that we're going to now have a very quick interview from the water with Stevie Morrison, Ben Rhodes.
I'm here with Federico and Arturo Alonso from Spain. They were our winners from the repechage, and then they came out here and showed the Petit final who was boss, winning both races. Federico, tell us, how did you win those races?
I think that we came here just nothing to lose, to fight with all the boats and get good starts. We have nothing to lose and take good risk in the starting line. And for sure, we were very fast in upwind.
Arturo, fast in the upwind, faster on the course. What is happening out here on the race course that allowed you to such success?
I don't understand you. Again.
What was the key to your success today?
The key. La clave.
Sí, yes. I think the start and the speed.
Okay.
And sail easy. When you start good and you have good speed, you can sail easy.
Okay. Well, you guys sailed easy and you sailed well. Say hi to Spain, and we're going to go back to you in the studio.
Hola, hello, Spain.
Thanks, Ben. So that was our race winners, the Teleshire brothers. Interesting that they just said, came out here, nothing to lose, not a lot of pressure on them. They already knew that perhaps they couldn't get to the final, but two great races.
Marcus, you were just saying that they used to be called the Alonso brothers, and now
Yes.
they're called the Telekir brothers.
I know these guys. They've been around for a long time, and I was a little bit surprised to see a team perform so well that I hadn't seen before. But I've seen the Alonso
You have
brothers.
seen them before.
I've seen the Alonso brothers many times before. They're great guys. They're great sailors, and I'm not sure if there's a mistake in the result system calling them Telekia brothers.
Well, the Spanish tend to have many different names in their name, don't they?
Okay.
So I wonder if they've always been Telekirs, but do you think it's a change of name, a change of fortunes?
Probably, yeah. I mean, there's an Austrian artist called Hundertwasser who said that you should change your name every once in a while. I just imagine how confusing that would be if everybody would do that, but maybe they've done it.
Well, if you're going to win 2 races in a day, then you'd change your name to Telekia, wouldn't you?
Well, I would on today's performance. And, you know, it's horses for courses, isn't it? What would you like to be called, Andy? I don't think I'll go there.
I was going to say Peter Lester, actually. OK World Champion,
Oh,
1970,
man. No.
a long time ago.
Let's not go there. So now we are set up for the finale, the big show, really, isn't it? The final of the 29, what I keep saying 29, I must be getting tired. The SAP 49 European Championships. We're at, this is the business end. And look, the standard is so high and this course is so short. It's a real tactical battle, and I can't wait. This is going to be brilliant.
It's going to be great. And again, it's another British boat that came through, Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes. They've got the measure of the course, but we've seen some of the other competitors sailing up alongside the boundaries, seeing what they can learn from watching the other races take place.
So I'm just hearing from the water, we're about to get into a sequence. David Campbell James. So race control just saying that GBR 77 goes through to the final.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So we've got 3 races to go in the SAP 49er European Championship, and we've got Peter Burling in the lead, but not much of a lead. Looking at the leaderboard, we'll bring that up in a minute. It's only a 4-point lead. That's not much for 3 races to go.
No, we've seen how much can change, so they don't want to get too comfortable yet. And we were speaking, Peter and I, to Dylan Fletcher and Alan Syne, currently in 2nd overall. They've done quite a few of these kind of races, and they don't reckon that the Kiwis have the same level of experience at this kind of boundary short course racing that they do. So it will be interesting to see how quickly the Kiwis can get to grips with it, Peter.
Yeah, and a fair comment. It sounds like Dylan Fletcher has done a lot, and it was interesting hearing him chat to you this morning. He really is quite expressive, isn't it? And as you were chatting, he's really wearing his heart on his sleeve and his expectation and summarising the skills of the opposition. I thought that conversation was just fascinating, you know, to hear you almost hopping into the inside of his mental state, getting ready for the finals of the Europeans.
This is familiar territory for him too, because at the 2011 European Championships in Helsinki, he did actually come 2nd in the event, but he became European champion behind an Australian team, Nathan Outridge and Ian Jensen, who would later go on to win the Olympic gold medal. He's in a similar position now with another Antipodean team, this time the Kiwis, Pete Burling and Blair Tuke. Dylan Fletcher and Alan Syne don't want to be 2nd but become European champions. They want to become outright European champions. They've done the 2nd and 1st thing before.
Well, they have been the European champions. They want to be the Open European champions, and of course they didn't achieve that against...
We're just on board Peter Burling's boat, and he's heading down to the starting line. He just did a little test run. He's heading back now to the start with 2 minutes and 55 to go. A lot of the good boats have the discipline to always do a little test run before the start, a minute before, a little earlier. Just go out once, set up everything for just right. They have to tune their boats like you would tune a music instrument. It has to be just right for the conditions you get right out of the start. So you want to do a little test run, and we saw Peter Burling do that. Not all of the boats. To me, Peter Burling's definitely the favorite. He seems to be so professional, so on the spot with what he's doing. It's not his favorite conditions today, probably, being one of the heavier crews. We've talked a lot about that. But I think in terms of professionality, he's one of the teams that definitely stand out.
For me, looking at these wonderful sailors, I think Burling and Tuke, their crew work is the benchmark, Andy. How big a part will that play in this game for them? Will that get them across the line, or will it in fact be strategic decision making?
I think their crew work's really going to help as well. Every time we see onboard shots with them, we see such precision. We also see a lot of aggression, and they really push that boat around. They tell that boat that they are the masters of the boat. They're going to do with the 49er what they want, and I would never buy a second-hand boat off them, just looking at the way they abuse it.
Coming up to 1:30 to go, line up. You can see the drone there, which will give us that cross the line shot. First race of 3. Conditions are good. It's staying in. It looks nice and even over the course. This will not take long.
They really like this committee boat end of the start. They're really trying to book this end. I don't see anyone having a go at the port tack start. Still a minute to go.
And the battle is on between Dylan Fletcher and Peter Burling, and we can see, let's have a look at the top view of the 3D graphics to see where they're lining up. Dylan Fletcher at the pin end on the left side, Peter Burling more in the middle. We saw him there a couple of times. He seems to like that congested part of the line, which really surprises me. I always like the pin ends more. He's right there in the bunch. Hard to judge the line from there.
What's interesting for me, though, there is Burling likes to open the gap between himself and the leeward boat. In fact, he's just popped in a little tack there to open up that gap more. Andy, take the honours. First race.
Let's go on board of Peter Burling and see how he prepares for the start. Another double tack.
So much movement. And yes, here they're trying to book their spot. They're trying to make it difficult for the boat in picture behind them there, getting up underneath them, but making sure they got space to put the bow down. And look at how he works that tiller. And there they go. Slow to accelerate. Someone is over the line.
Individual recall.
That was an individual recall. Let me try to make out who that could have been.
Looks like a good start.
No, it's Burling's gone back.
Oh, that surprises me.
Burling's gone back. Okay.
I would have thought that Lima was over the line.
I've just heard. Line is now clear, so all the boats that were over early have come back.
Was that NZL 6? Maybe it was the other New Zealand boat?
Yeah, it was the other New Zealand boat, and I think Peter Burling went back for no reason.
But again, you didn't want to take the risk. So the regatta leader taking a penalty that maybe he didn't need to.
Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes there in picture, just tacking onto starboard. So they did a very early hitch out on port. I didn't get to see whether they actually started on port tack, but they may well have done. As Marcus said earlier, they've used that to great effect.
Okay, we're going to go back and look at the replay of the start from an onboard shot on board Burling.
Working the boat, interesting. He's one of the sailors who like to sail barefoot. Less weight in the boat. And off he goes. I'm surprised he thought he was over, because the boat to windward was definitely, although he decides immediately, could have been us, let's go back.
But it looked to me as you pointed out there, Marcus, the boat up to windward was a lot more bow forward than Burling.
And yeah, very conservative move for him, and it's going to be interesting to see how he climbs back through the fleet. At the moment, Portuguese boat in the lead. This is the Portuguese boat. It's the Jorge Lima and Jose Luis Costa.
That's New Zealand 6. They're having a good race.
Marcus Hansen and Josh Probesky. Sorry.
Eric Hull and Thomas Plosel. Looks like they're going to get around in first place.
Top mark, first time. It's Hale first. Then we will have Hansen, followed by, I've got, who have I got in there next, guys?
I think it's, is it a French boat?
France in there next. Duatoli. So they are close.
French third.
What I'm looking back for, where are Burling and Fletcher?
I'm spotting the point gaps, and Fletcher is currently in 5th position, roughly. And Burling in last. So that brings down their point gap to 2 points. So it's going to be an intense battle in this final race.
Disaster for the Kiwis at the top mark. They did a jibe set under pressure, and Peter Burling has capsized. Well, we've got a boil over here.
Here we have underwater shots. That's the camera that's sending their images from underwater. What a disaster for them.
That is unthinkable.
Well, we've talked
The best boat handlers of this regatta. We've been praising their boat handling all week. This is the team that you would least expect to have done.
Well, I think what happened there, they went for a very aggressive jibe set. I'm sure Philip and his team will give us a replay of that top mark. It looked to me as though a very aggressive jibe set. I think they might have over-rotated and capsized. Well, first race. And now that really opens up the game for the rest of the fleet, certainly for Fletcher.
They just don't make boat handling errors. We've seen beautiful boat handling from them all week. That's
really
just incredible.
surprising. Eric Heil around first. That would bring them up to the podium. Currently ranked in 3rd place provisionally.
Now, what does that say about barefoot trapezing to you, Peter? You've done a bit of barefoot sailing in your time.
Yeah, but not trapezing, I can assure you of that. I think the amount of times off trapeze, you could fit on half a hand.
Dylan Fletcher in 4th place now. We've got a replay of the capsize coming up. Let's have a look at it. Here they go. They're jibing. Oh, no!
He fell off.
He unhooked. And it wasn't... he just... The cleat didn't grab onto. Oh, disaster. The cleat
so the cleat came undone?
He pulled himself up. We did talk about these single trapezes the other day. He pulled himself up, but he unloaded the trapeze, the hook came out, and he thought he was still hooked on, and as he tried to load up the hook again, he fell in the water.
So he could blame that on you, Marcus, because you were the pioneer of these single string
No, the
trapeze
system doesn't
adjusters.
work if you're too heavy, because then it becomes hard to uncleat. So don't be too heavy.
And he's blaming the system.
Of course.
As we go back to the race leader, and it is, Marcus, you'd be happy with this. Eric Heil, he's going to take this one out. This is a good lead. He's only got to go up.
It ain't over yet. It would put him on the podium, but 2 races to go, narrow point gaps, way too early to call. But at the moment, Dylan Fletcher in the lead with a 2-point lead over Peter Burling, who's probably has to give away this race. Not much he can do to catch up. He's back on his feet, not too far behind, but it'll be tough for him to catch up that one. And Dylan Fletcher has climbed up to 4th place and is currently on 73 points. And Eric Heil with 82, but it's really close. Julian D'Ortoli currently ranking 3rd is also on 82 points. So a lot can happen in the upcoming races. The podium is closing up. The championship is wide open.
The Kiwis are really coming back at the rest of the fleet. They're still in last place, but I'm really impressed how much ground they've made up.
Yeah.
As we now have the number 6 going round the top mark, and that is Marcus Hansen, the younger of the New Zealand training partners for Peter Burling. But what a boil over the regatta leaders, capsizing at the top mark. Here's the onboard of...
Yep, they just tacked away towards the windward mark.
They have the opportunity, the Kiwis, still to make up some ground, but here with a clear lead is Eric Heil and Thomas Plusser on the left-hand side of the picture, leading the other New Zealand team in this fleet, Marcus Hansen and Josh Perebski, down to the finish line.
Again, they... I know they were disappointed with their day yesterday, Marcus Hansen, Josh Perebski, but this is a good, solid result. They're very young combination training partner to Burling, but there's no doubting the winner of the first race. It will be Eric Heil, Thomas Plussel going down through the line. Next, we will have Marcus Hansen coming through. This is just going to open this regatta up, isn't it? The
Absolutely.
final. I mean,
looking at the points, it's closed up dramatically. There's only 7 points on the podium, and that's nothing with 2 races to come and double points. So it's Dylan Fletcher back in the lead with 75 points, Peter Burling with 77 points, and Eric Heil with 82. Closely followed by Julian D'Ortoli with 82 as well. Then a bigger gap up to almost 100 points. Jonas Vara and Peter Lang in 5th place. So The ones battling it out for the podium are the top 4 boats. It's Great Britain, New Zealand, Germany, and France.
When we get through the finish, I just want to talk to you guys about the psychological effect when you have a capsize or a big mistake. But we'll get through the line first, get all the boats finished, and we'll just do a points update. But I can assure you there are several teams that are in with a chance of winning this SAP 49er Europeans.
Look how much ground they made up. We've yet to see where they finished, but they got right back into the back of the competition there, coming from a long, long way behind. So you can see how much speed they've got. And despite what's happened to them there, I still think they're very, very hotly tipped to win this regatta, because their boat handling, apart from what we saw there, remains excellent.
Just they push hard. They push their boat handling, their crew work hard, and sometimes small error. And I'm not sure if they're the sort of guys, and I don't know them well, but they don't seem to be the sort of guys that are uptight. I think they probably just go, oh, well, flick it off. They're young, but they're experienced. But Marcus, just getting to you, what do you think would be going on in the minds of our regatta leader prior to that race? What do they have to do to regroup?
Well, I think there's a really simple principle. You don't do anything. That's the art. You don't do anything. You don't think. You don't worry. You just don't do anything, and just keep on going, doing what you're trained to do. That's what you have to do. But that's difficult. Actually, our brain is always in working mode, and you want to stop it, and that's hard. But I think these guys are good at it.
What now is the role of the coach? Ed Smythe, the coach for these two guys, what does he say to them? Or what doesn't he say to them is probably more important.
Well, he'll just. I don't think he has to say much. They're so experienced, these guys. They've won under pressure situations. Ed Smythe has won the 49er World Championships once or twice, I think, with Chris Nicholson.
Correct.
They're cool and calm. They don't worry about it. It's a little thing that happens every I don't know, 1,000 tacks they make a mistake like that. It's very rare.
You're saying do nothing.
I say do nothing.
Flip it off your shoulder.
Yeah. The worst thing happens when you're trying to do something better. You should just do what you're trained to do. Andy,
any thoughts? What's going through your mind in terms of their mindset?
Well, I think Marcus has hit it on the head. These are top athletes and psychologically very strong. All the boat handling we saw, and it's great that we've got the on board with them. They're not backing off. A lot of their manoeuvres are very high risk, and they need to execute them perfectly, and they continue to do so even after what happened to them. But I just wonder if that raises a little grain of doubt in your mind about your trapeze gear, that cleat that didn't cleat that rope. Are you going to do an extra double check just to make sure that it's cleated? It must niggle at your mind that if it failed once, it could fail again.
Yeah, well, it must have. That's what it looked like to me. We could look at the replay again. It looked like he pulled himself up, unloaded the trapeze, and then the hook fell out, and he thought he was still hooked when he came back in. We could look at the replay again if we get it. And whilst we wait for the other start, we might as well have a look at that, and that's beautiful. No, we need to go a little bit backwards. He's pulling himself up, and it unhooked. The hook fell out.
So just a slight error, and it's a matter of millimeters, isn't it?
And what it does now, it brings the podium closer together for sure. It's going to be such a tight battle between the top 3 boats now. A little bit of an outside chance for Eric Hall and Thomas Brüssel to still break into first or second place with 82 points. They're 5 points behind Peter Burling.
We roll on the screen the current points?
Let's get the overall standings. We got them. So it's now Dylan Fletcher in the lead with Alan Syne as a crew from Great Britain, 75 points, and only 2 points behind Peter Burling and Blair Tuke after their unfortunate capsize in the first final race of the SAP 49er Europeans, and in third place, Eric Heil and Thomas Plüssel with 82 points.
So I just want to point out that in the race of the commentary team, I am currently leading with my British sailors leading the way, Peter Lester in second and Marcus Bauer in third place.
I wonder
so
if
come
you'll be
on
so
the Brits.
I wonder if you'll be so cocky at the end of this one. And if you are, you're in the middle. Marcus and I
in the middle of the podium. I'm in the middle of the podium.
I think
We're
we're
gonna
in
beat
for
up
a
on
battle. We're in for a battle here.
I've got sweaty palms.
Okay, let's take sides, guys. It's okay, let's take sides. It'll be more fun that way.
No, I think Marcus and you, we've put up with them all week. This is our opportunity, you know. Here I am as a colonial. And
I'm the meat in the sandwich.
you're the meat, literally. So here we go. We're certainly the warning has gone. And David Campbell-James has set up our principal race officer. We're in for another fascinating race. It's the second race of the finals here of the SAP 49er Europeans. And we have the camera on board. The guys are wet. In terms of how they would like to feel, you often don't want to feel wet and cold. Would that have any impact, or do you think their blood's just running so hot now it doesn't really matter?
I think it's a warm day. It's a lovely day here in Aarhus, so I don't think they're going to be too bothered by that. But any weight gain or weight saved by not wearing his boots is probably now countered by the extra weight in their wet clothing. So that's not ideal. They're a little bit heavier than they would want to be. But no, I should think they're a little bit mad at themselves with what happened, but that might work in their favour.
We will have to just watch with interest. Can they just convert some of that energy, the disappointment of capsizing in race one? But this is all on. Dylan Fletcher, Peter Burling. It's really been a battle right through the week for those two crews.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And they're quite different crew weights. The British are lighter than the Kiwis, but the Kiwis have showed us this week that even if they're big guys, they're a force to be reckoned with in any condition.
So now the other thing I've noticed, compared with even the Petit final, especially with the women, how early they line up. This Gold Fleet, they line up very early, a minute 35 before the start. They're back from the line, but essentially they're picking their position.
Yes, they are. And when we've seen the onboard shots with Peter Burling, you can see how much he's sculling the tiller really aggressively like that, working the main sheet. But these guys have got really good, all the sailors that we're looking at here have got really good at holding position, of keeping the boat exactly where they want to.
Let's have a look at where the four top boats elect to start. It's Dylan Fletcher at the pin end. Peter Burling again in this funny spot. I wonder why he likes it so much. Eric Heil at the windward boat. And Julian D'Ortoli as well up at that boat. Let's go back on board with the New Zealand team.
One thing Burling does do that I've noticed, he makes sure he starts in the middle, but he likes a lot of leverage from the leeward boat so they can get into that acceleration mode. As we look here.
This time there's quite a gap above him. Normally he's got it pretty tight on the boat above him, which disadvantages the boat next to him. We can't see from this angle how much space he's got to leeward off him. But there they go. And it looks like a good start for the French. All clear. Good start for Eric Heil on this side of the course. I like where Eric Heil is. I think that's good positioning.
Yeah, he can go long towards that left boundary. And Austrians have tacked out. Good start on the French boat as well. We've got to see him in the picture now.
Very good start by Eric Heil right up to windward. Then we look down far to leeward at the pin end. Another good start by Fletcher. And Peter Burling didn't get the best start. He was a little bit bow back and he's been rolled off the line. So the top three, good one for Heil, very good for Fletcher. Burling, he's certainly battling.
Wasn't a great start for the Austrians, front of picture here. They had to tack out early because it was a bad start, but they're not doing too bad for having done that.
It does look like the left was favored a little bit. I don't think Eric Heil can pass that bunch of boats. Can he make him tack? Does he have to go behind? He does have to go behind. The boats could actually pull through in front. So not such a great start after all.
What was another great piece of crew work, and we don't want to keep talking about Burling all the time, but he was a bit covered up.
That's okay, Peter.
But number 2 was covered up, and they did 2 quick tacks, and they've wriggled clear Burling, and he's now in quite a strong position, coming out there. Looks like he's second on the water. It's fabulous racing, and it's about inches, isn't it? Millimetres and centimetres. So coming to directly
very
towards
close.
us, we've got Burling.
Portuguese boat currently in the best position. Let's see if he has to put in an ugly tack when...
They started in a
Burling-
great position in the previous race, but didn't make much of it. They dropped back throughout the course of the race. Look at the speed that they get out on the wire there. And this is looking very good for the Kiwis at the moment.
Yep.
If they're on ley line. But that, I just lost track of them a little bit. Off the line, they weren't good, but within 2 tacks, they were very good. Marcus, technique. Tell us about the technique here.
Well, it's interesting to see how Peter Burling bends his legs and stretches out his upper body. We can tell that these guys are a little bit heavier, but he's working the boat really well considering that. They're bending their legs. The boat is super stable. He's got the tiller high up in the air. We discussed that yesterday. I discussed that with a sailor, that this is unstable steering, but he seems to do a really good job at it, holding the tiller up like that.
Stepping right in because they want to get down as far down to leeward. They don't want the Portuguese boat to be able to slip down inside them tactically.
I commented on his start being in a, starting out of a sticky spot, but he does get out of those sticky spots and battles his way out, and I'm very impressed with his starting technique.
Did you guys, off the line, he wasn't strong, and then he got really strong. I missed. Maybe we can go back and just have on the analysis and have a look. How did Burling get out of being in a very difficult position off the line?
Well, I have it in the replay right now, and we can fast forward a little bit. And he looks okay, but it's like he's got the Portuguese right in front of him. That's not helping at all. I don't know, can he block him from tacking? I think he's tacking at the same time he is. He goes out, continues, and puts in a really nice tack below him, speeds up a little bit, doesn't get dirty air. I think it's pure pace on him. He's doing really well speed-wise.
And it appeared to me as when they did that port hand tack, he went into quite a strong position.
So that is impressive.
Crew work?
It's speed.
Speed?
It looks like he did that with speed, purely with speed.
Well, great tacks as well, though. You watch their tacks, and they accelerate out of their tacks.
Especially that first tack. He was far away, and he pulled... he came really close to the Portuguese just by doing that tack. Very impressive sailing by him.
Let's go back now to live. They are heading down towards the bottom mark. For me, that was the key moment for Burling. We can see the bottom mark gate. In the meantime, it is Fletcher who is second, so he's keeping the pressure on.
That for the overall, it would still mean Fletcher in the lead.
But it's going to come down to who beat who in the last race, as the positions currently stand. So into the bottom mark, it is Burling and Took ahead of Fletcher and Sign. We're on the second upwind. Big moment for me was that ability there of the New Zealanders in slightly disadvantage off the line, but they converted that at the top of the windward beat. I thought that was something special.
Your boys are doing well, Peter.
I'm now that Andy's put the bet down, we're fully focused, as you would appreciate.
What about my boys?
Where now? That's right. Where's Eric Heil? We're looking for him.
He's got some work to do.
He just put in an ugly jibe in the middle. That slowed him down a little bit, and he's down in 7th position, I believe, but still on the podium with 94 points, and every other team above 100. So not looking good for him for a silver medal, but quite a solid podium position, but too early to call, of course. Going around the leeward mark now. And your man, Andy, Dylan Fletcher in 2nd position.
I'm having to revise my doubts about barefoot trapezing because Peter Burling and Blair Tuke, they just do fantastic boat handling all the time. And I'm just constantly staggered. So I think Dylan Fletcher and Alan Sign have got a lot to do to beat Kiwis of this quality.
Would you recommend them to chuck their shoes off in the last race?
No, I wouldn't. There's a bit of history to this. Kiwi sailors, normally, as a kid, you don't wear shoes.
Okay.
And so unless you've been doing it all your life, don't try it. Because honestly, I'm a victim. You know, you end up breaking your toes. So it is very much an antipode or a New Zealand thing to wear bare feet or wear flip-flops. Don't try it if you haven't done it since birth.
Don't do it at home.
Do it at home. But actually, what you can do, when you start having your children, do it from birth, then it works. But don't try it halfway through your career.
and certainly not on the last day of the SAP 49er European Championship.
So the battle is on between Peter Burling and Dylan Fletcher in front. Dylan doesn't let go. He's close.
I think he's closed in a little bit. It looks like Burling's got very much into match racing mode, really. They've gone boat for boat.
And that's the battle for gold and silver. Looking at the overall standings, they're first and second at the moment. Overall, Dylan Fletcher would be first again.
Right. And now what I want you to do now, Marcus, is just go back to the analytics. At the bottom, Burling did 2 extra tacks to put himself into a very strong tactical position. And that just meant reducing his risk. If we can have a look at that down in the bottom third of the course.
We're going back to the bottom third. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the 3D graphics again.
In the meantime, that's his top mark. In comes Burling. Fletcher right on his tail. This is setting this up for a fabulous last race. Let's have a look at that double tack.
There you go. He tacks on top of Fletcher. There you go.
He did a little move there. And Marcus, what was that about? He did 2 extra tacks, really, to put Fletcher in quite a compromised position.
This is such a school book move he's making. I mean, you can see the boats moving up, and he's totally covering him very, very safely, staying to windward, which absolutely makes sense in these sea breeze conditions. So he's doing everything by the book, exactly, accurately, and Dylan Fletcher that way. It will hardly be possible for him to pass like that.
Are you surprised Fletcher didn't try more attacking moves up that beat?
Yeah, with the little gap behind, he could have gotten into attacking duel. It doesn't look like he's got a fair gap to the Portuguese boat, and he could have attacked Burling by putting in a couple of tacks. But if Peter Burling is so confident to put in a double tack just to get to windward of him and throw him dirty air, maybe his tacking is just unmatched.
Starting to get light, it's getting soft, and that opens up opportunities for the trailing boat. It's not, this one's absolutely not all over yet as we look at Peter Burling. They went into today ahead, but in race 1, sensationally, they capsized. And here are the attackers. It is Dylan Fletcher, Alan Syne, and we know from our chat this morning, a little interview we had with them, Andy, they are desperate to beat the New Zealanders.
They absolutely are, but the problem for them now is that some of the boats coming from behind are coming down on better breeze, and the leading 2 teams that had such a big lead over the rest of the fleet, that lead is being whittled away. This is no longer the 2-horse race that it was, and at the moment they're still in the lead.
And Jorge Lima could actually get into the game by attacking Dylan Fletcher there and slipping in between the 2, but it looks like they're going to easily pass. They're on a roll right now. They've got good speed in the boat.
You'll see the Portuguese spinnaker come into view now, the red spinnaker on the left-hand side, and they've made big gains.
He could force a jibe. He could force a jibe to Dylan Fletcher, and that's bad news for you, Andy, and good news for Peter.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Pass that little bouquet along the table.
Well, you owe a beer to the Portuguese there, I think, Peter. I think they've just done your boys a favour. Your boys look like they're going to hold on for the lead as they go into their final jibe.
Well, and the other boat that's come back into play here is Warra coming in from the far side. So there was breeze, wind filling in from behind, and that brought the bunch up onto the leading boats. And it meant that Dylan Fletcher had to go into a big defensive mode as he dropped a spot on the line. So first...
Well, he's come back strong.
Yeah, he's coming back. He's coming back. It looks like he can pass him. Can he?
I think
close.
I think Fletcher got his second back there. That's my guess.
That was.
It does look like it in the analytics. It does look like
So that was a good comeback for Fletcher if he held on to second place there.
It was a great piece of sailing by Fletcher. He was under the pump from
Let's get a replay
Portuguese,
of that finish.
and that was all about. So this afternoon breeze now is starting to collapse, and that just sets up the final.
One more race to go.
One more race to go, and it is getting tricky.
Not a good race for the German boats. For the German boats, they finished 6th. That puts them down in 4th position, out off the podium, and Julian Dortoli currently on the podium, but one more race to go.
So Marcus, I think you're out of this championship.
Not yet. It's one race to go, mate. And here's the finish. We have Peter Burling and the Portuguese boat. And does it look like the Portuguese is ahead? No, it doesn't. It's Dylan Fletcher who came back to 2nd, just right in front of the finish. Nice close racing.
Well, we couldn't have scripted this better. We are now into the final race of the SAP 49er Europeans. And here we go. 2 boats on even points. This is a shootout between Fletcher and Burling. They won 79 points each. What do we do now? Change nothing again? Just both teams? Who really now do you think has the mental toughness to take this one?
Well, it's really interesting what's going to happen now, because if they battle it out, it could be a match race between the two, except that Eric Hull can still catch him and Julian Dortoli can still catch him. If they would come last and second last, I think there is a chance that they could still make it. So I don't think we'll see a match race. They definitely have to battle it out in the front of the fleet, not the back of the fleet.
2 very tough teams. I can't see either of them crumbling. I think it's a matter of positioning off the start line. I think that's going to be one of the key things to get right. It does concern me a little bit with Dylan Fletcher's desire to want to start on the left-hand end of the line. I don't think that's the strongest place to start, but Marcus, talk us through it.
Yeah, that's the results as they stand. Dylan Fletcher in the lead due to the braking rules, but they're tied on points, 79. That's definitely going to change after this race. They can't be tied on points after this race. One of the boats is going to be ahead. Peter Burling now in 2nd place, and Julian Dortoli on the podium, but only 2 points to Eric Hull. So I think we have a super interesting battle coming up for gold and silver, and also for bronze. And like you said, Peter, this couldn't have been scripted better. It's perfect.
Well, you know, we've got one to go. Not too much more racing to go, but wow, it couldn't be better, could it? It's a beautiful day, sun's in. I'm just a little concerned the wind is showing signs of collapsing. We saw at the end of that one, the trailing boats came in on the leading boats. So I just hope it stays good for another 20 minutes or so. I'm sure race management team, the PRO, David Campbell-James, who has done a great job through this week. That's top shelf, as you would expect, wouldn't you, Andy? I just think this is brilliant, and I love this style of racing. I haven't seen it before. I think restricting it, keeping it close to the shore, the television coverage and the cameras, brilliant. And, you know, I reflect back, it's who makes the least mistakes will win this World Championship. Burling's made a mistake already in this one, a big mistake, capsized.
But yeah, it was one of those rare occasions. It can happen.
It's all in the past.
He tripped, and it didn't look like he tripped because he was nervous or anything. It was just a freak occurrence, and that can happen. And it's so nice to see them battle out there, and you can see the little things they're doing. Because we have onboard cameras, we can see how fickle the boats are and how careful they have to be to get all out of it. And it's great to be that close to the game.
Certainly is. I mean, the finesse, and if you're watching this and you're a coach or a young sailor in a 29er perhaps, you know, just watch and concentrate, Andy, in on the detail. It really is gold, isn't it?
I'm loving it. I'm loving the onboard footage and the drone footage, and all our camera angles are giving us a real insight into how you sail these boats fast. And as Marcus said, maybe the difference between the men who have been sailing these boats for some years and the women who are still within the first few months of sailing these boats is the level of aggression. Aggression combined with precision. That's what I see particularly with the New Zealanders. Really aggressive moves, but perfectly executed.
Yeah, well, it's also called controlled aggression. It's got nothing to do with, you know, freaking out and being aggressive in a violent sense. It's about, you know, getting the last bit of force out of that boat. And you always have to think, these boats, of course, don't have motors. The motors is the wind, and the force that pulls the boats forward is very, very small. So you have to be very careful with that little bit of precious force that drives you past your opponents. And it's great to see those guys working on that.
Happy to tell you, we're in sequence. From the water, there's been a couple of signals go up, so we're in business. We are going to get the full program finished, which is fantastic. And it is a shootout.
We should state that we have some Frenchmen in the studio as well, and they'll be rooting for their guys on third position. So nice to have the whole media crew backing up the top four. I think we're in for a really interesting battle here. That's
right. There's certainly within our multinational commentary and television team here, we've got the fleet covered, haven't we, for the podium finishing. So we get ready as the countdown is on. That they do line up early. Look, there's 2:40 to go, and already the starting positioning is starting to take shape. That's really been something, Andy, that has really been distinctive, hasn't it, through the day. The women were a little bit later lining up. The men, in this occasion, already at the windward end. 2:22 to go. They're picking a spot.
Again, it's a sign of experience and the level of practice and the many hours that they've put into this slow bicycle race of waiting at the traffic lights, not putting your feet down. That's the skill. Can you stay balanced on your bike without it falling over? It's a little bit like that.
So these are the top four boats, and let's see where they position. We've got Dylan Fletcher on the left, Julian Dortoli. They're quite free. Peter Burling and Eric Hall a little bit stuck in the bunch.
I think that's almost a carbon copy of where these were before. It's always Fletcher on the left, Burling just off the committee boat, Eric Heil very near the committee boat.
Yeah, it's like they booked real estate there. Let's have a look at the onboard camera.
I think the philosophy there, I think Fletcher likes the pin and he can control his time and distance to the pin end, but he knows he's going to come off the line if he's on time on distance with clear air. For Burling, he's very good at that pre-start of holding his lane, isn't he? He'll create as much gap as he can to leeward and then try and compress the windward side. So Peter Burling, with his very good boat control, happy to start up in the bunch. It's the last spring off the line that is so important. I think Peter Burling's starting technique is the tougher one to achieve. For Dylan Fletcher down at that leeward end, as long as he can control his time on distance, he's in for a safe start.
I think it is a safer start where Dylan Fletcher is going, but potentially the rewards are not as great. I think if Peter Burling and Eric Heil can carry off their starts where they are, if they can get them right, it's a high-risk start at start time, but further up the track, I think it puts them in a stronger position. What impressed me about the previous race was that Peter Burling's start wasn't the best, but he lived in some bad air for a long, long time, and that's a real skill.
You can see the boats at the windward end of the line trying to control their game.
We're in the last 15 seconds or so to the start.
Let's go on board the New Zealand boat. Let's go on board with Peter Burling and see how he battles out of that start.
I think Eric Heil's got trouble up at the committee boat end. Has he got enough room there?
Peter Burling puts in another double tack. He's going to go back.
I think Burling this time has Lima really keeping him pretty well corralled. It's not the best start for the Kiwis. Now look down at the leeward end, and for me, Dylan Fletcher has got the better start of the two boats.
The German boys have battled their way out of the windward position there. Looking good. They've fought hard up there, but last time around, that didn't help him much.
The Kiwi boat definitely looks back. It's not in the front line.
Good pressure on the Austrian boat in front. I like the way they look.
I think Dylan Fletcher down to leeward. He got a beautiful start. Has he got enough leverage, though, to come back? Because that's the dilemma, isn't it? Start at the leeward end. You've got to get far enough advanced that when you tack, the starboard tackers don't attack you.
Here he goes.
He comes, and he's certainly ahead. He's dipping the Portuguese boat. Now here comes Burling. So Burling's ahead of Fletcher at the first cross.
But Burling's got one more tack to do, Peter, so at least Fletcher's got his tack in. And there we're on board with Burling. Can't tell if he's got clear air, but he seems to be holding his own.
Fletcher had to duck a lot of boats there.
So Burling went all the way.
Can he pass?
All the way to the ley line.
Ooh,
he's
big
got a dip.
away on Burling.
And we're on the onboard of the New Zealanders, and it's really cut and tuck. Paramount to get your crew work right, have the confidence to put the boat into a 50-50 position and to pull off a good manoeuvre, because one manoeuvre could be the winning of this one between Burling and Fletcher.
So these three boats coming towards us on port tack. It's the Portuguese, the most left-hand boat. I like their positioning there. When they tack back, and they will be able to tack there because there's a boundary, the Portuguese, once again, will be having a great first beat. We've seen great first beats from the Portuguese. They can't always hold it around the race course, but I would say they're the most consistent team going up these first legs.
My boys have to take a turn. That's really bad news.
Now
Good news for the French guys.
That turn, I think, might have been for the Eric Heil. I think he fouled out to Dylan Fletcher. So we're coming up to the...
Dylan Fletcher in a sticky spot.
The top is Dylan Fletcher. We're looking over our shoulder. We're looking at the images. So look at the two boats on port. Here comes Burling tacking. Fletcher underneath. That's the race for the regatta.
The Germans got a bit on. They're currently down in 5th place overall. They really have to do some catching up in order to make it in front of the Portuguese, who are currently winning this race.
I was looking at the wrong boat. I was looking at the other Kiwi boat, number 6. It's number 2 that we should be looking at. That's Burling, and I think he's in a strong position compared with Fletcher. So there's Denmark, GBR, and coming round the mark we have now Peter Burling. Directly behind him you've got Marcus Hansen, his training partner. So at the first mark it is Burling who has the advantage over Fletcher for the SAP 49er Europeans.
Putting in a jibe set here. You can see that on board this time safely around. Austrians on a roll to windward. Portuguese going really well. The Austrians have to jibe at the sideline. You can see the little marks. They're not allowed to go through that. They can't because it's joined with a rope.
So I'm just looking through my list. The other player we have to look for is the French team. Marcus, have you identified them in relation to Fletcher and Burling? Because are the other
in 9th place? They're behind Eric Heil, and that's good news for Eric Heil and Thomas Plössl, who would be tied on points for 3rd and 4th place. That would be enough for them to make it onto the podium.
So we are now just coming up to the halfway point. So right now, if we were looking at podium finishes, it would be Burling, Fletcher, and then you're saying Heil.
At the moment it would be Heil, but it's too close to call for sure. Let's bring up the results as they currently stand in this race. That's not the overall, but as I said, way too early to call. Let's get rid of those. We want the overall results just very briefly, the overall standings as they currently are, but it's too early to call. Let's look at what Peter Burling does. If he stays ahead of Dylan Fletcher, then that's it. He's the European champion, and that's certainly looking good for him at the moment. Quite a gap between the two, and the battle between Eric Heil and Julien de Ortoli is on as well. Julien de Ortoli at the moment in last place.
What's interesting is the top of the leaderboard are at the back of the fleet. So it's actually turned now, Andy, into a strategic race, hasn't it, for the leaders?
Yes, we're seeing some of the other sailors, some of the teams we haven't spoken much about actually in the front few places. The Portuguese leading this race. They're climbing up the rankings, but not sufficiently to get back up into the medals. They're not that far away, it has to be said, but they're not going to be able to climb back up.
Oh, and terrible rounding for the Frenchman at the moment. Double jibe right there. very slow. Eric Kyle just an inch in front of Dylan Fletcher, who's tacking now.
And here we look at the Kiwis. They look in very light winds on the right-hand side of the course. And it looks soft for them at the moment.
Certainly the bottom of the course is very light, and I look back further to Dylan Fletcher. It's also very light for Fletcher, Heil, Dortoli also. But
that's a good defensive position there for the Kiwis on the Brits. Even though the Kiwis aren't that fast at the moment, not much breeze, pretty much what they get, the Brits are going to get as well. So that's a loose cover, that's a loose defense that the Kiwis are putting on the Brits. They're not putting a hard cover on them and taking their air away, but it's hard to see how the Brits are going to get past them in that position.
If Eric Kyle wants to stay on the podium, he has to keep Dylan Fletcher between him and Julian Dortoli. He doesn't want Dylan Fletcher to overtake him. So he lets him go quite a bit at the moment, covering the Frenchman, but he also has to be on the lookout for Dylan Fletcher. Not sure if he can make it through. It does look good that he can actually pass him, and it's probably, well, we shouldn't interfere with the race so much, but probably smart to put a tight cover on him. And he can't. Marcus tech underneath.
Marcus is being commentator, tactician. He's not looking at the screen anymore. He's looking out the window. And
what does that say about outside assistance?
Exactly. So, but let's not forget the front of the field. We have Portugal in the lead. That's George Lima. In second position, we have Delacarth. But they are not in the running for the winning of the European Championships, hence why we've been looking down the back of the field towards Fletcher and Burling. But it is starting to get pretty light and a little bit tricky as our race leader around the mark, heading down towards the finish. So that's Lima first. Good breeze at the top of the course. A nice lead. We look there, jumping up on the wild jibe coming up.
That's Jorge Lima, but overall he's in fourth place. Not really a chance for the other. The battle is on at the back of the fleet. Peter Burling has to stay ahead of Dylan Fletcher. It looks like he's going to manage that. Eric Heil has to stay ahead of Dylan Fletcher as well if he wants to gain the bronze medal.
You've got to be impressed by Burling's racecraft, don't you? I mean, really, other than having a capsize, which looked like that was just one of those things through pushing at the crew work, he has managed the finals to win the regatta.
He's got the whole package. You can't do that without good speed, but you see by his positioning on the race course that he's a thinking sailor as well. It's not just brute force that's getting him around the track. He's actually putting himself in good positions tactically, and he's now very focused on where Dylan Fletcher is and Alan Syme, because they're the only threats. They've got them squared away behind, and there's an early jibe here as we see their onboard position.
And be good to get in the overhead, and the battle is on between Eric Heil and Dylan Fletcher. I think Peter Burling is off. He's going to get his gold medal.
So we are now coming down towards the halfway point on the last leg of the Europeans.
Oh, and a bad jibe on the German boat, and it does look like Dylan Fletcher is in a much better breeze, and that, ooh, that looks like they're giving away something right now.
You don't see a bad jibe on the Kiwi boat. Another very nice jibe for them.
I'm not sure if this place is good enough for Eric Heil to retain his bronze medal.
So the battle for bronze between the French and the Germans. Looks like gold and silver is going to go to New Zealand and Great Britain.
Yep, Peter Burling hasn't finished yet.
But we'll just focus on the battle for third and fourth between Heil and Dortoli. Who's it going to be?
Eric Heil in a good position now, going low and fast. It does look like even if Dylan Fletcher passes him, he's then tied on points with Julian Dortoli. And if our scoring the he'd be...
So that
he'd
is
still
the
be second.
New Zealanders coming down to the line and
finishing And that's the European champions of the SAP 49er Europeans 2013 in Aarhus. Well done. Congratulations to Peter Burling and Blair Tuke. Here they are.
Fantastic result for them. Congratulations, Peter Lester.
But what about
the
silver?
shout.
Does it? Oh my God! It does look like Julien de Ortoli could manage to pass Eric Heil and Thomas Plössl. Can they pass him? They have passed him on the last stretch to the finish.
Can we confirm that? It looks very, very close.
That is very close at the finish. And so we can confirm certainly the first overall in the SAP 49er Europeans has gone to the New Zealand crew, Peter Burling and Blair Tuke. Second will go to Dylan Fletcher, Alan Syne. We are just waiting now to get confirmation of who will make up the podium. And I see both the boys next to me tapping away furiously. Marcus, I'm not sure. Provisionally, we think it might be the French. I know you're hoping for Eric Heil. Have you got confirmation of that yet?
Well, I don't want to be too biased, but from what the analytics say, it's Eric Heil and Thomas Plössl in third place. And let's look at that finish once more. Let's go to the overhead graphics once more and look at the finish. And here they go, Eric Heil and Julien de Ortoli going towards the finish line, and it does look like in the last second Eric Heil can pull past them, and that would mean they would pass, but I'm not sure if that is correct. It's certainly not official, and we can bring up the preliminary results to have a look what they say. They still have, well, it's clear Peter Burling and Blair Tuke won these European championships with 89 points. In front of Dylan Fletcher, silver medal with Alan Syne, and in third place Eric Heil and Thomas Plössl. But these are not the official results, and look how close it got in the end with Julien de Ortoli and even Jonas Vara just 1 point behind, and Jorge Lima another point behind. As
so
close
these
as
are
it can get.
These are provisional results. We now have an interview lined up on the water, and we'll go out, and I'm assuming we're going to chat to the Kiwis.
We're here with Peter Burling and Blair Tuke, champions from New Zealand. Tell us, Peter, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, we're obviously pretty stoked. Obviously had a bit of a shocker in the first race there. I fell out the back of the boat, and to just bounce back like that and manage to take it out, it's pretty exciting.
Blair, tight racing, real close going into the last race. What was your strategy there?
We had a good race before starting up the line, so we did a pretty similar thing, and it worked well for us. So, like Pete just mentioned, we had to bounce back pretty quick after they were firing the race off so fast, and we had a really bad race in the first one, and our coach Ed helped us out, and we just got back on with it and did the job. So really satisfying after we've sailed pretty well, especially in the last few days.
With the pressure, with the championship on the line there, what was going through your minds as you were approaching that last one?
Yeah, I think we really enjoyed the pressure, and it was just kind of dealing at it almost as another race, but just keeping a bit more of an eye on Dylan and Alan, because we had to also beat the French and the Germans, well, not let them beat us by too much. So we were kind of just doing a normal start, and then from there on we just consolidated and stayed ahead of the British.
All right, guys, give a shout out to all your friends back in New Zealand.
Yeah, hi to everyone watching. I'm sure there's some people up pretty late in NZ, so thanks for watching us this week, and cheers to all our supporters and sponsors. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for all the support, and yeah, hope you enjoyed watching.
Go well, son.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing you guys a little more. Back to you guys in the studio.
Well, that was a nice little touch. You've got to remember, New Zealand is 10 hours ahead of us here in Denmark, so you really have to be a 49er fan if you're up watching it on Sky Sport down in New Zealand.
Or the web.
Or the web. But I think, did you try and get it on Sky Sport?
It's not on live in Sky Sports, but delayed.
But it delayed coverage, which is, that's a big deal. You've got to remember, in New Zealand, it's about rugby and sailing on the tally. So well done to the champions, Peter Burling and Blair Tuke, who are the overall European champions. Dylan Fletcher, Alan Syne will in fact be the European champions of Europe, won't they? Because of course the New Zealanders are outside of that window. A little bit of frustration for Dylan Fletcher on that, because he talked about that this morning, that he's actually been nobbled by an Antipodean before.
He has, yeah. He hasn't got what he wanted, which was outright victory here. He was still beaten by the Kiwis as he was beaten by the Australians 2 years ago in Helsinki at the European Championships. So a little bit of disappointment there generally, but still a great performance by the British. I thought those were the two standout teams, but I have to say the Kiwis really did deserve to win that.
Here's the official results, and they are switched around compared to the
you can't bring yourself to say it, can you, Marcus?
No, I can't even say it. Good news for the Frenchmen in the studio giving us the 3D graphics. Bad news for Germany. What a pity, I must say, for us, because it would have been nice to have a podium position again. It's been a while in the 49er, and yep, but that's the way it is.
Well, that's really just been the best end to a wonderful afternoon of racing, a wonderful week here at the SAP 49er European Championships. I think the highlight for me has really been here, sitting here today, watching this short track stadium racing with all the excitement. Attention to detail in the end for me won the regatta. What do you think, Marcus? What's going to stay in your mind in terms of the performance of the podium finishers?
I think we saw the biggest talent currently active in the 49er, Peter Burling and Blair Tuke. They're really standing out in a well-deserved victory, and it feels good with all the format discussions we had that everyone will agree we have a just winner here. Really good performance for Dylan Fletcher and his crew as well, and the French and the Germans did well all throughout the week. I think it's very close between them, but the order is okay, and I think that's what a good format should do. It should bring out the best.
And Andy, I mean, we've been together for 2 weeks. We're invited by Marcus to help with the commentary. It's been a great 2 weeks, hasn't it? And really, this has been the highlight.
It's been fantastic. We saw some great racing in Kieler-Woche. I particularly remember the 505s and the drone footage that we've had and the coverage with all the analytics. I've learnt a lot watching people like Wolfgang Hunger and Julian Kleiner in Kiel show us how it's done in the 505, and today we saw how it should be done with your boys from New Zealand, Pete Burling and Blair Tuke, and they said they enjoyed the pressure. I think, looking forward to the Olympics in Rio 2016, this will be useful experience. You'd never set out to fall out the back of the boat, but if you can fall out the back of the boat and still win the championship, that's good experience to tuck away in your belt.
Well, that just about brings us to an end here from Aarhus, from the regatta, from the 49er Worlds. It's been a pleasure bringing it to you, and I would like to wish you all a fond farewell.